Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I've received some emails from you guys who are planning to move to Australia or Sydney specifically, or just moved here recently, and asking questions about life in Australia, life in Sydney, and all sorts of questions. So I decided to do a video today and to talk about one of the aspects that is very important if you decide to come to Australia, and that would be the job situation, what kind of job you can expect to find when you just move here, and what kind of wage or salary you can expect to get, because when you're planning to come here, of course you're planning your budget, you're bringing some savings with you, but of course you cannot rely on that for a long time. And I think that most of you that are coming are planning to look for a job, and that way you can plan your finances. So I thought that I'm gonna talk about what kind of job you can get in Sydney, and how much you can get paid for, so that it would be easier for you to plan your finances if you're planning to come to Australia to study or work, travel, or whatever kind of visa you are able to get. So if you're coming to Australia as a student, then I think you only will be able to work 20 hours per week. And a lot of people start with hospitality jobs, because I think those are the easiest to find. And you can find it. I cannot answer the question like how soon you can start working once you come in, because it really depends. One person can start working the next day, and for another one it can take a month or even few months if you arrive in the winter season, because for hospitality jobs, of course, summer season is more busy and then it's easier to find the job. I myself arrived in July, so that was winter, and I was looking for the hospitality job, and it took me I think over a month to find a job that I was really happy with. It was a job in the restaurant, just waitressing, and I was getting paid $16 per hour, and that is the kind of wage that you can expect if you work in a restaurant. So that would be $18 per hour. And after a while I also worked in a bar, and in a bar wage rates are usually higher. So I was getting paid $21 per hour, and on Saturdays it was 24 and $28 per hour on Sundays, because on weekends rates are usually higher here in Australia. So if you're thinking about the hospitality job, and if you have bar skills like a bartender skills, then if you work as a bartender, then I think that it's more likely that you will be making more money than doing waitressing. And another important tip if you want to work in hospitality is about tips. And tipping in Australia is not as as widely popular as it is in US. As you know, in US, like, waiters can rely on tips, and they make more in tips than the actual salary. But in Australia, especially now that a lot of people paying by card, there are many people that don't leave tips, or just don't leave as much. So tips is not something that you can really rely on in Australia. But if you work as a waiter or in a bar, you can get some tips. And even working in the bar, I was actually making more in tips than working in the restaurant, because it takes like an hour or 2 hours to just serve one table, and then they can leave you like $5 or $10. But then in the bar, you serve a person every minute. You're making drinks so quickly, and then you give them a change, and they may leave you like 50 cents or $1 or whatever. But in 1 hour you serve so many customers that even if you're getting those very little tips, at the end you just have more tips. Okay, I think that is enough about hospitality. As well, the kind of jobs that are quite easy to find is like a delivery person, you know, for like a pizza delivery or other kinds of deliveries, but I don't think I've never worked that kind of job, but I see a lot of like young people and students doing that kind of job. I do not think that they are making much money, but for that job, like for a hospitality job, you would have to speak English pretty well, because you have to deal with people. For the delivery job, I think that even if you're starting to learn English, I think it would be easier to get this kind of job, because you don't really need to talk much. So if you feel that the language is an issue, then you may look at the delivery jobs. But I don't think that you would be getting more than $16 or $18 per hour. And here in Australia, like, people don't really tip. Like, I never tip when they deliver pizza or something, and I don't think that other people do here as well, because usually people just pay online and that's it. And for the guys, I know that a lot of guys, even without an experience, they start working in like a construction, or they work as painters and that kind of thing. Of course, I never did that kind of job, and I don't know much about it, but what I heard, like, from my friends, from male friends, they said that those jobs are quite well paid, and you can get $25 per hour and more. And in that industry, they are sometimes not that strict with hours if it's like a smaller company and you work for the owner. So for guys, I think you can definitely look up like painters and jobs in construction industry and that type of jobs if you're coming to Sydney. And okay, what else? So I think we kind of like covered those jobs that are just very easy to find without like any experience and without perfect English. If you want more like even more casual jobs, then you can look on Gumtree. I'm gonna link some websites where you can look up some jobs in Sydney or in Australia in general. I'm gonna add them in the description box so you can look at that. Gumtree, I think, is the biggest for kind of like casual jobs and easy to find jobs. So on there you can even find like something like one-off, like work in some kind of like festival, doing some catering or promotion kind of jobs. So while you're looking for more permanent job, you can also just go on Gumtree and just look for more like a casual job just on the weekends, or just one-off job. And if you are if you have some kind of profession, like if you're an accountant or electrician or technician or something like that, you can look for more serious job, but that would be a full-time job. So for that you would need to have like work and travel visa or working visa. But if you do, then those jobs are also an option for you. And with the hospitality jobs, you usually so in Australia there are two ways you're getting paid. One is wages, and that is when you get an hourly rate, as I was mentioning, like 16, 18, $20 per hour. And another thing is salary. It means that you're getting a package for a year. And so if you're looking for a full-time, more like serious job, like an accountant, or I don't know, whatever profession you have, then you would be offered a package. So that would be your salary. And the starting salaries at those kind of positions, I think they would start from like 30,000 Australian dollars per year. And then you need to look at if it's like plus super, because in Australia you also have to pay super from each time you get paid. Part of it goes to super. So when you're looking at the package, it's important to notice if it's like plus super or super is already included in that. So yeah, if you're like starting as a marketer or like a finance professional or something like that, your starting salary yearly package can be somewhere, I would predict, from 30 to 60,000 Australian dollars per year, and probably plus super. And of course, the more experience you have, the higher salary you can ask for. And I wouldn't say that it's too competitive in Australia. In the bigger cities, it's always more competitive, but at the same time, there are more jobs. So I think like Sydney is a good city, and it is still pretty easy to find a job, and it's fine to start with lower paid jobs, the ones that are easier to get, and then build up from there. Just get more experience, work on your English, meet more people. And most of people that just moved to Australia, to Sydney, they usually start with like lower qualified jobs, and then move their way up. There are lots of jobs in the retail industry. They aren't that high paid. It would be again like around $18 per hour, but then you can always with an experience and with time, you can always move the ladder and maybe get the better position and higher salary. And as well, I wanted to mention that the kind of job that is pretty easy to get here in Sydney is in the gyms as a receptionist. So you would be just greeting people and saying goodbye and signing them up. So that is really easy. You would need to learn to work with their computer system, which I think would also be easy. And one of my friends just quite recently applied for that kind of job online, and he just went for one interview, and he didn't even need to send the CV. He just went for the interview and he got the position. And they pay, I will not mention which gym that is, because there are so many gyms in Sydney and in Australia, but in that particular gym they offered $18 per hour. So as I said, it's not a high salary, so $18 per hour, I think that is very achievable kind of rate that pretty much everyone can aim and get in Sydney. So if you are planning to move here and try to find a job, and then based on how many hours you're going to work per week, 20 or 40, then you can kind of multiply that by like 18 or 20 or something like that, and then you will get an idea of how much money you can possibly be making living in Sydney. And based on that, then you can look for accommodation. At least you will have the kind of like budget that you will have. And another important thing, that for more like casual jobs, when you are getting wages, then you always are getting paid weekly here in Australia. Unless you're on a salary, then you can be paid fortnightly or even once per month. But when you work by the hourly age, then you are always getting paid weekly. So when you're planning your budget, it's always best, I think, to also plan it weekly. And when you pay rent, it can be weekly or it can be monthly. It really depends. So I guess that's all about jobs. As I said before, I'm gonna add some links of the websites, like the most popular websites where you can go on and just look for the kind of jobs that are advertised in Sydney or in Australia, or whichever city you're planning to move in. And if you have more questions about Australia, if you want to move here, or if you're already here, then you can ask in the comments below, and I can make more videos and answer those questions for you guys. And if you want to ask more like specific questions, and you want to like more direct communication, and you want to send me a direct message, then the best place to do it is on Instagram. My Instagram is Food Brings Me Joy, and it's called like that because I post there recommendations of places where to eat in Sydney. So if you're planning to come to Sydney, or if you're here, then you should definitely follow me there, because you can see the places that I like for food. And I will add that in the description box below. So thanks for watching. That's it for today, and have a great day, guys.